You have seen the symbol before, that black and white circle swirling in what we often call perfect balance. It adorns walls, jewelry, and the covers of countless books, usually presented as a simple recipe for a peaceful life. But what if I told you that this ancient emblem is not a logo for tranquility, but a map of a cosmic prison and the secret key to your liberation? Most of us look at the swirling shadows and light and see a philosophy of compromise, a suggestion to find a middle ground between the extremes of our existence. But the seekers who first carved these patterns into the soul of humanity were not interested in mere compromise. They were hunting for the very mechanism of reality itself, the hidden engine that drives every heartbeat, every falling star, and every agonizing choice you have ever made. Imagine for a moment that your life is not a series of random events happening to you, but a meticulously choreographed dance performed by two invisible titans. We call them yin and yang, but these names are merely placeholders for forces that defy human language. One is the dark, receptive womb of all possibilities. The other is the bright, piercing needle of action. To understand them is to understand why you suffer, why you strive, and why, despite all your efforts, you often feel like a passenger in your own mind. We are about to go beyond the surface of the cliché, guided by the wisdom of those who bridged the gap between the ancient East and the modern West, to uncover a truth so profound it might just stop the world from spinning for a moment. The great translators of this mystery, those who spent their lives deciphering the silence of the sages, suggested that we have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of balance. They spoke of the Tao, or the Way, not as a destination to be reached, but as the underlying sense or meaning of existence. If you look closely at the symbol, you will notice that the light and the dark are not static. They are in a state of perpetual pursuit. They are lovers locked in a dance that can never end, for if one were to truly conquer the other, existence itself would collapse into a featureless void. This is the first paradox of our hunt. The very thing we perceive as conflict is actually the only thing keeping us alive. Think of your consciousness as a highly sophisticated radio receiver, tuned into a frequency that presents a world of opposites. We see hot and cold, joy and sorrow, life and death, and we treat them as separate warring factions. We spend our lives running toward the light and fleeing from the shadow, never realizing that the shadow is the very thing that gives the light its form. The ancient metaphysical tradition suggests that before the world of the two existed, there was only the one, a state of primordial unity where no distinctions could be made. In that state, there was no you to experience anything. The birth of the yin and the yang was the birth of your perspective. It was the moment the universe decided to split itself in half so that it could finally look into a mirror and see its own face. This division is the binary code of the reality you inhabit. Just as a computer operates on the interplay of zeros and ones to create vast, immersive digital worlds, your reality is built upon the tension between these two primordial energies. One of the great psychologists of the deep mind once observed that without this tension, there is no energy, and without energy there is no soul. We are the products of a divine friction. But here is where the mystery deepens. If we are made of this tension, how can we ever find peace? Is the goal of our journey to finally stop the dance, or is it to find the point within ourselves where the dance no longer disturbs us? There is a concept in the most ancient of texts that speaks of a center that never moves, an axis around which the entire universe revolves. It is the silent hole in the middle of the wheel. We often live our lives on the outer rim of that wheel, desperately clinging to the spinning spokes, tossed about by the centrifugal force of our own emotions and desires. We experience the rise of the yang as a frantic need to achieve, to build, and to conquer, and we experience the fall into the yin as a terrifying descent into emptiness, depression, or loss. We are perpetually off balance because we identify with the movement rather than the source of the movement. What if the secret to navigating the storm of your life lies in recognizing that you are neither the white nor the black, but the thin S-shaped line that separates and joins them? What if your true identity is not found in the victory of one side over the other, but in the awareness that watches both? To understand this is to begin the process of what the ancients called the Great Return. It is a shift in perception that moves you from being a victim of the cycles to becoming the master of the rhythm. But to reach that center, we must first learn how to read the language of change, to see the signs of the shifting tides before they sweep us away. The path we are following today is not a comfortable one, for it requires us to stop fighting the flow and start observing the mechanics of our own chains. It is a hunt for the meaning behind the movement, a search for the intelligence that guides the seasons of your soul with the same precision it uses to guide the orbits of the planets. We are standing at the threshold of a deeper understanding, one that bridges the gap between the metaphysical laws of the cosmos and the intimate struggles of your daily life. Are you ready to see the world not as a battlefield of opposites, but as a single breathing organism of which you are the vital, conscious heart? To begin navigating the practical architecture of your life, we must first master the art of reading the invisible tides. One of the most profound bridges ever built between the ancient wisdom of the East and the analytical mind of the West was constructed by Richard Wilhelm. He didn't just translate words, he translated a living rhythm. He showed us that the world is not made of solid objects, but of changing states. This is the essence of the Book of Changes, the I Ching. It suggests that your life moves in 64 primary patterns, each a specific combination of yin and yang. To look at your current situation through this lens is to stop asking, why is this happening to me? And to start asking, what phase of the breath am I currently in? Think of a situation in your life that feels stuck or overwhelming. Perhaps it is a career that has hit a wall or a relationship that feels drained of its initial spark. To the untrained eye, these are problems to be solved with force, which is an excess of yang energy. But Wilhelm's interpretation suggests a different engineering of destiny. He points to the law of reversion. In nature, when the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, the very first seed of darkness is born at that moment. When the winter is at its most frozen and desolate, the hidden pulse of spring is already beginning to stir in the deep earth. This means that within your greatest success lies the seed of your eventual rest, and within your deepest failure lies the spark of your next ascent. The practical secret is to identify the seed before it blooms. If you are in a period of intense struggle, a yin phase, the temptation is to fight your way out with frantic action. But the wisdom of the sages tells us that this only exhausts your remaining reserves. Instead, the task is to become fertile soil. Yin is not passivity, it is active receptivity. It is the silence of the hunter waiting for the right moment to strike. When you learn to see your low periods as the necessary inhalation before a great shout, you stop wasting energy on resistance. You begin to practice what the Taoists call Wu Wei, or effortless action. This is not about doing nothing, but about acting so perfectly in tune with the prevailing current that it looks like you aren't trying at all. Imagine a master surfer on a massive wave. They aren't fighting the ocean, they are borrowing its power. That is how you apply the physics of yin and yang to your Monday morning. Now let us descend from the cosmic tides into the labyrinth of your own mind. Carl Jung, perhaps the most daring explorer of the Western soul, recognized that the yin and yang were not just external laws, but the very anatomy of our psyche. He spoke of the shadow, that dark twin that follows us everywhere, containing everything we have rejected about ourselves. In our modern, yang-obsessed culture, we are taught to be bright, productive, and rational at all times. We glorify the sun and fear the moon. But Jung warned that whatever we repress becomes our destiny. If you refuse to acknowledge your yin side, your need for rest, your vulnerability, or your irrational creative impulses, they don't disappear. They go underground and wait. They manifest as sudden burnout, as inexplicable anxiety, or as self-sabotaging behavior. The practice of integrating the shadow is the ultimate psychological application of the yin-yang balance. It is the realization that you cannot have a mountain without a valley. Jung suggested that a truly whole human being is not good in the sense of being perfectly polite and harmless, but complete. To be complete is to have access to both your light and your darkness. It is the sacred marriage within. When you face your own darkness with curiosity instead of judgment, you are performing a form of inner alchemy. You are taking the lead of your repressed emotions and allowing them to be transformed into the gold of self-awareness. Consider the dynamic of the anima and the animus, the feminine and masculine energies that Jung believed lived within every individual, regardless of their gender. The animus is the yang, the sword of discernment, the power to stand firm and speak your truth. The anima is the yin, the chalice of intuition, the ability to feel the interconnectedness of all things. Most of us are out of balance, leaning too heavily on one and starving the other. If you are all yang, You become rigid, brittle, and eventually you break under the pressure of your own expectations. If you are all yin, you become formless, drifting through life without a sense of direction or boundaries. The goal of the mystery hunter is to conduct a marriage between these two inside the heart. When the sword and the chalice meet, you no longer act from ego. You act from the self, the totality of your being. As we move deeper into this practical map, we encounter the towering figure of René Guénon, who approached the mystery from the perspective of what he called the Great Triad. Guénon argued that the human being's true purpose is to be the mediator between heaven and earth. In this symbolic system, heaven is the ultimate yang, the source of pure consciousness and order. Earth is the ultimate yin, the realm of matter, form, and manifestation. You stand in the middle. You are the vertical axis that connects the two. This is not just a poetic idea, it is a functional manual for your existence. Most of the time, we feel like we are being pulled apart by these two forces. Our spiritual aspirations pull us toward the heaven of our ideals, while our physical needs and the demands of the material world pull us toward the earth of our daily survival. We feel fragmented. Guénon's solution was the concept of the unmoving center. Imagine a great wheel spinning at a terrifying speed. If you are on the rim, you are constantly being tossed around, struggling to stay on. But if you can find the exact center, the axle, you will find a point where there is no movement at all, even though the whole wheel depends on that point to function. To find this center in your life, you must practice a form of detachment that the ancients called remaining in the middle. This doesn't mean being indifferent, it means being centered. When praise comes your way, you don't let it inflate your ego into a fragile yang balloon. When criticism or loss comes, you don't let it crush you into a yin abyss. You observe both as passing weather on the surface of your soul. You are the mountain, and the storms of praise and blame are just clouds passing your peak. By identifying with the center, you become the master of the circle. You begin to understand that the chaos of the world is only chaotic because you are looking at it from the edges. From the center, everything is in perfect, rhythmic order. This leads us to a crucial question for your daily life. How do you know when you have drifted from the center? The signs are usually physical and emotional. When you feel a sense of frantic urgency, a need to control every outcome, and a fear of silence, you have become yang heavy. You are burning your own oil too fast. The remedy is a deliberate descent into yin. This might mean literal silence, a retreat from the world of doing, or a surrender to the unknown. Conversely, if you feel stagnant, lethargic, and unable to take action even when you know you should, you have become yin-heavy. The remedy is a spark of yang, a small but decisive act of will to break the inertia. The most sophisticated practitioners of this wisdom, the modern alchemists of the consciousness, don't wait for a crisis to balance themselves. They treat their lives as a laboratory. They understand that suffering is simply the universe's way of telling us that we have moved too far from the axis. Pain is a feedback loop. If you touch a hot stove, the pain isn't a curse, it's a signal to move your hand. If your life feels painful, it is often because you are trying to force a yang solution on a yin problem, or vice versa. You are trying to inhale when the universe is exhaling. What if your greatest problem right now isn't something to be fixed, but a rhythm to be understood? What if the very thing you are fighting against is the other half of the soul you have been looking for? The ancients didn't see the world as something to be conquered, but as a mirror. If the mirror shows you a monster, it is because you are refusing to look at your own shadow. If the mirror shows you a desert, it is because you have forgotten how to reign. The hunt for the mystery isn't about finding a treasure chest in the outside world. It is about learning how to adjust the lens of your own perception until the black and the white merge into a single, radiant truth. Consider the practical application of the third point. In every conflict, whether it's between you and another person or between two conflicting desires in your own heart, there is a tendency to take a side. We want the light to win over the dark. But in the metaphysics of the Tao, the goal is never the victory of one side, but the harmony of the whole. This is the higher synthesis. When you are faced with a choice between A and B, the wise seeker looks for the hidden C, the point that transcends both while including both. This is the birth of true creativity. It is the moment when the tension of the opposites becomes so great that a new reality is born, a reality that didn't exist before. This is the secret of the fertile void that Alan Watts spoke of. It is the space where the impossible becomes inevitable. If you can learn to sit in the tension without rushing to a conclusion, you are building the diamond body that the Eastern sages spoke of. You are becoming a person who can withstand the polarities of existence without being shattered by them. You are no longer a piece of wood being tossed by the waves. You have become the water itself. And water, as the Tao Te Ching tells us, is the most powerful force in the universe precisely because it is the most receptive. It doesn't fight the rock, it flows around it, and in time, it wears the rock away. This is the ultimate practical paradox. Your greatest strength is found in your ability to yield. As you move through your day, start to notice the hinges of your experience. Notice the moment when a conversation shifts from listening to speaking. Notice the moment when your energy peaks in the afternoon and begins to settle in the evening. Don't just experience these things, watch them. Watch the yin becoming the yang. Watch the sense of the moment. By becoming a conscious observer of the cycles, you stop being a slave to them. You begin to see that the universe is not a machine, but a song. And once you hear the melody, you can finally start to sing along. But this raises a final, deeper question that most people are afraid to ask. If we spend our lives balancing the light and the dark, the movement and the stillness, who is the one doing the balancing? Is there something within you that remains when the dance finally slows down? We are approaching the peak of our hunt, the place where the maps end and the territory begins. What lies behind the two? What is the source of the rhythm itself? To find out, we must go beyond the balance and into the heart of the mystery, where the hunter and the hunted finally become one. We have navigated the tides of change and explored the deep architecture of the soul, but now we must confront the most unsettling revelation of this journey. We often speak of balancing the yin and the yang as if we are the jugglers of these two cosmic forces, but the high metaphysics of the ancient world suggests a much more radical truth. If you are the one observing the light and the dark, if you are the one feeling the tension between your ambition and your need for rest, then you cannot be either of them. You are the third point, the silent witness that René Guénon described as the unvarying center. This is the peak of our hunt, the realization that your true identity is not found within the dance of duality, but in the primordial silence that makes the dance possible. Imagine for a moment that your consciousness is not the black or the white part of the symbol, but the very paper upon which the symbol is drawn. The paper is unaffected by the swirling ink. It doesn't become darker when the yin expands, nor does it become brighter when the yang peaks. It remains exactly what it is, providing the space for the movement to occur. This is what the sages called the Wu Chai, the great void that precedes the Tai Chi. It is the state of absolute potential before the first division. Most of our suffering comes from the mistaken belief that we are the movement, that we are the emotions rising and falling, or the circumstances changing. But what if you are the stillness that allows the movement to be known? This realization brings us to a profound paradox that can be difficult for the modern mind to grasp. We spend our lives trying to become something, to reach a state of perfect balance or enlightenment. But according to the deep Taoist tradition, you cannot become the center because you have never left it. You are already the Tao, manifesting through a temporary mask of opposites. It seems the oldest advice in the world is to know thyself, and it's funny how that remains the hardest final boss to beat in the game of existence. We are like fish searching for the ocean, unaware that the very thing we seek is the medium through which we move. The implications of this shift are transformative. When you stop identifying with the struggle and start identifying with the awareness of the struggle, the weight of the world begins to lift. This is the true meaning of the effortless action, or Wu Wei, that Wilhelm so eloquently described. It is not a lack of action, but an action that comes from a place of non-attachment. You play your role in the world. You engage in the yang of building and the yin of resting, but you do so with a secret smile, knowing that the you who is doing these things is just a ripple on the surface of an infinite sea. You become a bridge between the eternal and the temporal, a living expression of the great triad where heaven and earth meet in a human heart. Once you inhabit this center, your relationship with the other also changes. In the Jungian sense, when you realize that the person across from you is simply carrying the yin or yang that you have not yet integrated, conflict turns into a sacred dialogue. You stop seeing enemies and start seeing mirrors. You realize that the world is not happening to you but for you, as a series of lessons designed to bring you back to your own axis. The responsibility of this awakening is immense. You can no longer blame the darkness for your fear, nor can you credit the light for your ego. You must own the entire circle. This is the hidden geometry of the soul, a map that leads not to a destination, but to a state of being. The ancient masters were not trying to give us a religion. They were giving us a technology for the consciousness. They wanted us to understand that we are the authors of our own reality, writing with the ink of duality on the parchment of eternity. But as we reach the end of this particular hunt, we are left with a question that echoes through the halls of history and the silent chambers of the heart. If the dance of yin and yang is the universe's way of breathing, and you are the one who hears the breath, what happens when the breath stops? What if the ultimate secret isn't how to live in balance, but how to die to the illusion of separation? We spend so much energy trying to win the game, but perhaps the point was always to realize that the player and the board are one and the same. Does the source of the rhythm exist because we are here to perceive it, or are we here simply because the rhythm needed a witness? These are the mysteries that have no final answer, only deeper levels of inquiry. And that's our hunt for now, a journey through the swirling shadows of ancient scrolls and the deep echoes of the modern psyche, a mix of documented history and tantalizing what-ifs based on the profound sources we've explored together. If these ideas resonate with your own journey into the unknown, consider hitting subscribe so we can continue this hunt into the mysteries of the consciousness together. The wheel is always turning, and the next revelation is just beyond the horizon. What do you think? Is the balance something you find, or is it something you already are?